Stacy Rasgon. Stacy, tariff risk in semiconductors. How do you look at it after these new the China back and forth?
Yeah, you bet. So semiconductors actually have very little direct risk from tariffs, at least on these countries, which are China, and then I guess we'll find out at some point Mexico and Canada. The U.S. imports a fair amount. I think in 23, the U.S. imported about $73 billion of total semiconductors. Less than $10 billion came from those three countries combined now, out of a $600 billion plus total industry. It's relatively small. So the direct impacts are pretty minimal. There are potential indirect impacts, though, because most semiconductors travel into the U.S. inside other things. And so there can be secondary effects, like if there's demand destruction because the prices of the end products that contain the semiconductors go up, and does that impact demand? And just for an example, China is a pretty sizable importer to the U.S. of things like handsets and compute PCs and servers. Mexico is as well as vehicles and cars. A lot come from Mexico, and Canada. We import a lot of vehicles from Canada as well. So
is it enough to change your view on any of these?
But not directly. What's that?
Does it change your view on any of these? Change numbers? No. Change demand? No.
No. To be fair, like we've been looking at tariffs on and off like for years. I think I did my first tariff note in 2019. I think I've done 6 or 7 of them since then. There are very little direct impacts, unless there are like universal tariffs, which clearly could have an impact. But universal tariffs will have an impact on everything, not just semiconductors. So no, I'm not too worried about tariffs, at least not from a direct point of view.
Okay. What about AMD? Stock is up 4% into this report. There was kind of a rethink on these semis, especially tied to the AI stories from DeepSeek. Where are we on that, and what do you expect today?
Yeah, so AMD does report in just a little bit. I think the stock's probably up because I think expectations have come down. You can go look at the share price. It's been under a lot of pressure for a while. And I think investors, everybody's worried about, what is the AI number going to be next year? Are the AI revenues going to decline in Q1 potentially? They were talking about lumpiness last quarter, and I think there's a belief maybe that expectations are now finally low enough where people can maybe take a flyer on it. So I suspect that's why it's up. I think it's just positioning into the print.
Why has it underperformed so much?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Why has it underperformed so much?
Well, you have to remember, you go back 6 or 9 months ago, and people thought, they were guiding at that point for like $2 billion in AI revenues, and they'll wind up doing 5 or so. But I mean, at that point, people thought they were going to do 10 plus, and so expectations just got way out over their skis, and they moderated and came back down to reality, as we went through the year, and that's kind of where we are right now. Personally, I still worry that numbers overall next year could be a little too high. We are below. I'd like to see, again, the sell side AI numbers come down again. I think the buy side, the investors who are investing in the stock, their expectations have now come down for next year. And again, people are looking at what this might be into Q1. I suspect numbers need to come down. I mean, that's what the stock price is reflecting. Numbers were too high, and I think there's a belief going into it maybe tonight that maybe if the expectations are low enough, you can take a flyer on it. And at least the valuation is a little more palatable. It was, I don't know, as if yesterday it was something like 25 times forward earnings. I mean, it was, 40 or 45 times if you go back, like I said, 2 or 3 quarters. So it's moderated.
So it's still 150 price target for you on that. What about NVIDIA? 175, which is having a little rebound today, but hasn't really come back from last week. Has the narrative changed?
Well, I think I said this earlier on CNBC a while back. I think the whole DeepSeek thing, the fears are very much overblown. But that being said, there's an overhang, and like you can't prove a negative, right? You can't prove that it won't be an issue. And if people are now worried that it could be an issue, I mean, that just may take a little bit of time to clear. And you can sort of fold that on top of some of the supply chain issues that they've been having. They're ramping up their new platforms, and these are very, very complicated things. And they're just, they're going to sell every single one that they can get out the door. The question is, how many of them can they get out the door? And so there's some incremental nervousness just around them getting supply chain in order as you go through the year. And couple that with this broader uncertainty around AI and DeepSeek and everything else, it's creating a bit of an overhang on it.
But I think
it was overdone, but.